Let's go, everybody. It is time to talk about the monetization of Diablo 4 because they just did a big, chunky old reveal of it. This is something that obviously, in the light of Immortal, has got us all pretty damn curious, let's just say. So for the vital context you need for this, Blizzard's content teams are chunky. Really, really chunky. World of Warcraft went up to like 700 plus people. Apparently that team is experiencing attrition due to some policies coming in from the top down that are going against what the game directors of Blizzard's projects are sort of saying to their leaders, which is rather unfortunate. But what we've seen is more monetization, but significantly more content. A very fine sort of balance.
Well, this is usually the meta that a lot of these games have now, is that they add in more content, but there's also more monetization. I think a great example of this is Honkai Star Rail. It's like every fucking day, dude, they're uploading more often than like a lot of YouTubers at this point, with like new stuff all the time.
Balancing act, right? As an example, World of Warcraft had a almost what you may call a microtransaction for $8, but against the backdrop of a absolute shit ton of content.
Yeah.
You then look at Overwatch 2. While not all has been perfect there, you cannot deny that those seasons somehow have managed to come out, which, I mean, given that we didn't really expect things to go particularly well, given how aggressive their plans seem to be, is kind of surprising. And now when we look at Diablo 4, I think we see a game that is trying to have almost that more MMO-like cadence, okay? Less World of Warcraft, probably a little bit more Destiny 2. Now, Blizzard always said that this would involve some post-launch monetization. Now we're going to find out what that is. But I can tell you, it's probably not today's sponsor. You cannot know what you've not been shown. It is such a big problem in today's algo world. So, that's why today's sponsor, ground.news/Bellular, is here to save us. I got them on board because their culture aligns with ours, with this channel, you know, cutting through the bullshit, the spin, the bias. Founded by a NASA engineer, they aggregate news from over 50,000 worldwide sources with full bias breakdowns for all of the different outlets, and as well as like what types of
I think this is like really in demand nowadays. Like a lot of people are I think really fucking sick of every single thing that they look online that has like this massive bias. Or like there's like some critical element of context that's intentionally left out. I think a lot of people are looking to move past that.
Let's even cover stories. So it actually, whenever you read, it'll know what you read. And then it will show you stories that are tailored to your blind spots. I mean, hell, seeing their front page, right, with all the news and how it's being covered is just cool. It feels like you're able to just get the combined knowledge, the balance of everything. As an example, the war in Ukraine is something that, you know, I want to know what's going on there, right?
Yeah, I would assume
having
so.
tools like this is just fantastic. And recently, they've been dead handy with work. When I've been researching big topics like, a while ago, the FTX collapse, and of course, much more recently, the ongoing mess that has been Microsoft's acquisition of Activision Blizzard. So, in a world where we often find out things because of retweeted headlines or biased, dubious sources, Ground.news exists to help you find your footing in the truth and empowers you to be a well-informed individual. So, Ground.news/Bellular. You can sign up for free there or subscribe for unlimited access. They've got a range of plans starting from under $1 a month. An awesome service. You can check them out at that link. There is a deluxe edition sized elephant in this room. Diablo 4 is a premium launch with the base edition costing $70, right? Now it does, of course, have your usual pre-order bonuses that are connected to other Blizzard games. But
guys, that's just the way it is. Yep. I will say, though, if you get the deluxe edition, it does come with the battle pass.
Cosmetics, so things like that. You can pay an extra $20
that's
though,
at least
for
nice.
The deluxe edition.
Just the way it is.
Get you 4 days of early access. So June 2nd release date. It's one of those interesting things. Quite often you have some technical hiccups in that period, but this does solidify June 2nd as the real launch. And at least from my experience, and I think a lot of perceptions, this is a strategy that is extremely effective. I mean, what do you do? Okay, the numbers would have been easier. I could have just said you increase your average price of a sale by like 25%. Not as high a percentage since we're $70 instead of 60, but you get my point, right? For almost everybody, and especially a game like this where it is a big, it's a big tide, right? Big tide of gameplay. Where people are benchmarking themselves to their friends.
Yeah, everybody wants to be there on day one. Of course.
Like, yeah, that's going to go humongous.
Oh,
I think,
yeah.
for them. And also, since PvP is more of a thing.
Well, I mean, like, I'll give you 2 examples of knowing that this works, right? Is that it worked with Lost Ark. There was over 500,000 people that bought the pre-order version of Lost Ark so they could play the game 3 days early. That's over 500,000 people. Think about how much money that is. That's like literally millions and millions and millions of dollars. So that's number 1. Number 2 is Hogwarts Legacy. Hogwarts Legacy also had like an early access type thing with the deluxe edition. And it was like, again, upper hundreds of thousands of people that bought it. Here's the truth. Making an option to where you can play the game early, and if you pay more money, is super cringe. It's really annoying. It's basically fucking pay to win. And if I was making a game, I'd fucking do it. Because it obviously works. It makes so much money, and it only matters for like the first week of the game, and then after that, people just move on. That's the truth. It's too lucrative and too effective to not do.
Game, it does give people a little bit of a head start there. But we can add to this the collector's edition at $100,
it's FOMO, yeah.
which is also roughly industry standard. That does not include the game.
That's so
now, that
stupid.
being said, when you actually look at the collector's edition, it looks pretty sick.
It does, but it would look even more sick if the game was in it.
Editions are usually quite good. You, of course, get your big, sexy box, pin, cloth map, art book, kind of the whole 9 yards.
I don't understand why they did this.
So that's the sort of thing. I won't really begrudge them too much. You'll soon see I have my own thoughts on having
pre-order beta next. You understand that they already have that, right? That people that pre-ordered the game were able to play the first weekend beta of Diablo 4. Like, they already had that. Yeah, catch up. Yeah, or KFC. Yeah, or they're double downers.
Something similar to this, which maybe you'll find out about in like a month or two. Anyway, as we go on then, your $70 game, all your various different upsells, which I think will be highly, highly effective. Just look at the number of copies that D3 shipped on launch. Like, this franchise absolutely does the numbers.
Oh,
but
yeah,
then, of course,
people
we've
love
got
Diablo.
whatever the hell's after that. So let's take a look at post-launch support. Okay, there are going to be quarterly releases. All right, so not as aggressive as Overwatch 2, but quarterly releases. And I
think that they have to do quarterly releases. I mean, like, even Path of Exile has a battle pass, right? Like, they have that Kirax Vault thing. It's like it all keeps popping up over and over.
Actually think that is pretty damn fantastic. So, additional gameplay features, new quest lines, battle passes, legendary items, class balance changes, quality of life improvements. Also bringing in fresh concepts and ideas to the game. So, seems pretty decent. Our first season starts mid to late July, over a month after the game comes out. Now, they've said that this is because these new seasons will all only be accessible post-campaign. Right? So seasonal content is after the campaign. That's why they're doing that sort of delay. But it's not going to be a direct continuation of the campaign. They're going to leave that to the expansions. And they also...
Yeah, I think that makes sense, right? The beginning of the game is basically a beta. I don't get why you think Collector's Edition should include the same for price, especially when Blizzard's giving out stuff for free. Well, I just think the collectors, if you spend $100 on a box full of stuff about the game, I just think they should give you a key to the game. Like, I don't know. I think that'd be fine. Like, what would that what would happen then? Like, maybe, oh my god, like, we're selling too many collector's editions? Like, what the fuck? Yeah, I don't know. I think that's like...
also confirmed that the story can be skipped after the first time you've completed it, which of course just means you don't have to like redo the story on your seasonal characters. Overall then, this in itself is kind of interesting, right?
Okay.
You look at, say, a Destiny. One of the things people, I think, sometimes liked in Destiny was the progression of plot. Or at least the progression of lore between those seasons. Maybe we will still see that, like, you know, lore hints, things like that.
I'm sure there might be like a couple of little things added in with the first season, right? Like they might have like a new capstone boss that wasn't in on the very base release, and they're saving that for the season. But in terms of like an actual like big amount of content, like story content, no, it's not going to happen in the first season.
That kind of, you know, weird live service way of storytelling that doesn't involve a shitload of content. Which, yeah, I think this is basically them wanting to get all that engagement, but still wanting the idea of a new expansion, you know, big new story, big new villain, all of that to be super exciting. And
oh yeah, that's what PoE does, is they have expansions, even though you don't pay for them. It's like, you know, like the Conquerors of the Atlas, and then the War for the Atlas, you know, all these ones, the Fall of Oriath. You know, yeah, and that stuff was cool. It is cool.
Of course.
They want quarterly sales, yeah.
Humongous sales. Anyway, this also does follow something that Call of Duty's been doing. And I really have found this to be interesting because a lot of the modern Call of Duty games, whenever you boot them up and play them, you click in the store and you're like, what? There's a bundle that gives money to the Call of Duty endowment for veterans, and there's basically not much else in the way of monetization. This is loopy. And it's always then that, like, after a month or two, that's when the season starts, that's when the monetization comes in. So this kind of will happen, kind of gives the game then that new marketing beat as the season drops. It's time to re-engage, and that is where all of your sort of optional spend and all of that sort of comes in.
Well, that's where you're already going to make your money, because those people are already invested into the game. They already care about the game a lot. They're not going to leave at that point if they're still playing it after a month because of monetization. Like, heavy monetization is only going to alienate people that are, like, really super casual.
This also has the very handy thing
and like a few
of allowing
like super
them to
hardcore
dodge
ones.
having to show off any particular pricing or anything like that.
Yeah, it's
that
FOMO
could be
because they're
kind of
invested at that
controversial.
point.
As an example,
Yeah.
Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 looked like a pretty damn, you know, good, fair experience when you actually look at that on launch. And then very recently with its DMZ mode, we have seen multiple, you know, cosmetic bundles that do happen to have a gameplay benefit, which is a bit scummy. Now, to go and talk about the
How
season...
convenient, yeah. I heard DMZ wasn't very good. I remember I had a friend that was like really excited for it, and after it released, I never heard him talk about it ever again.
Journey then. This will be familiar to people who have played games like this. It's designed to showcase all the seasonal content to players by giving you chapters.
By the way, I am a big advocate. I think season journeys are great. I'm a huge advocate of season journeys. I think Diablo 4 should take it even farther. They should have an elite, like, fucking neckbeard season journey where it's like, you know, fucking get level 100 on 3 classes, beat the capstone bosses on all of those classes, collect every single legendary in the game. And if you do all of those, Diablo literally sends you a t-shirt for that league. They fucking print one out, they bite the bullet, they pay the money, and they send it to you. And I guarantee you, the next time that BlizzCon happens, you're going to see a bunch of fat 30-year-old men walking around with those t-shirts on. And they're going to be, this is the proudest day of their life. And they're going to see other guys with the t-shirts. They're going to be like, they're going to tip their fedoras at each other. They're like, yeah, a fellow gentleman.
Made up of individual missions.
They need to do
and
that.
If you click in it here, you can see exactly what it looks like. You've got your different chapters of the seasonal journey, and essentially just what a lot of players
Man of
want.
culture,
they want to
yeah.
go into their game, they want to have a clear goal, and they want to have something that just says, hey there, gamer, this is what you can go and do to move your way through
Yeah,
this.
I think
and
season
versus
journeys are
just
fine.
grinding out a Paragon level by killing a bunch of mobs, or grinding XP by winning matches in Halo Infinite or something. Something like this allows Blizzard to have it be a little bit more designed, a little bit more varied.
Yeah.
With pretty damn clear
every game does this because it works.
your rewards being displayed. So it's pretty obvious. Now, all of this stuff is free, right? So you complete these missions, you see some of the new content, you get rewards. This is free stuff. But If you also participate in the season, every challenge that you do awards you with favor. Completing quests gives you favor, joining events gives you favor, just generally doing stuff in the game gives you favor. Now, based on this screenshot, this is not necessarily something that's marked in super discrete numbers. You'll rather just see things that say, like, look at this, you know, reward, larger favor drop. So we're earning favor. What does favor do? Well, of course, favor takes us through the battle pass. Yes. Oh, woohoo! We're back. The battle pass. Yes. Oh, woohoo! We're back.
This is so fucking funny. I don't know why, it's just so fucking funny to see that.
Battle passes. It's one of those things for a long time. They have been seen to work. There have been good implementations of this. Not to be sitting here praising Halo Infinite, but the way that Halo Infinite guarantees that you do not, like, lose things that you've purchased with its sort of persistent model, like, that is really good. But obviously battle passes, we're now getting very fatigued by them as an industry, because basically every single game is saying, hey, we need X hours a week. That's just what we need from you, game.
Yeah, no, I think it's true that, like, battle passes were great, but there will be a point of, like, saturation where, like, because everybody has battle passes, people don't want to buy them anymore because they're going to have to, like, focus on all of these different games. Like, if you have a battle pass for one game, that's $20. But if you need to buy a battle pass in 5 different games, that's $100.
To the point, I think, where people are just beginning to be really tired of being asked for that. Okay, so there's a little bit of a look at the Battle Pass. We've got 27 free tiers and 63 premium tiers. This will last for 3 months. And it ain't a Halo Infinite, crew. It cannot be completed after that. And it can only...
I don't know why you can't complete old Battle Passes in future seasons. I don't really see, like, what's the upside for the player? FOMO? Yeah. I mean, sure. Like, I just don't see that as, like, an that's maybe an upside for them. Like, I don't know. I would be less, like, personally, if I knew that I had to complete the battle pass inside of that season and I knew I was falling behind, I wouldn't even want to log on because I knew I was behind. I think that it can have the opposite effect psychologically. Maybe I'm the exception. But personally, it doesn't affect me that way.
Be progressed on seasonal characters. Now, the free tiers will give you cosmetics, which are framed as being class agnostic. They give you smoldering ashes, which can be spent on blessings, right? So these are things like player-controlled boosts to XP, gold, and obol earnings during a season. Now, these are gameplay changing. And these are basically character level limited, so you actually cannot apply them unless your character reaches an appropriate level. And the reason why they've done this is so that you can't just buy a whole bunch of tier skips, then get all of these boosts, and then hyper-optimize your way, like, right up to the top with those boosts. So that's something they're doing to just sort of control the flow of progress there, to maintain a just to maintain balance between the people who are and are not paying, which, yeah, you know, that's good. I think in a game like this, XP boosts and stuff, they can actually be kind of fun. They can certainly be a very meaningful reward, given how...
I think that experience boosts for alts is totally fine. I think that if you have to pay for it, it sucks, but if it's on the free track of the Battle Pass, I don't see that being an issue. Yeah, that's... okay, cool. Fine.
This genre is very much codified along the lines of grind and time equals money. So, our premium tiers then, they are very explicitly framed in regards to what they are not. But we don't have a ton of detail on the actual content. So the upgraded track has 0 in-game power, instead has cosmetics unique to that season and the platinum currency. So platinum is a premium currency that you cannot earn in-game. You can only buy it with real money. And
I wish they would make it illegal to do that. I don't see it as being... I feel like it's like... because Because the reason why every game has like these secondary currencies is so they can confuse the buyer on like how much money they're actually spending. So like if the foundation of why you have this is to deceive the consumer, why hasn't the government stepped in and tried to fucking like regulate this? Like, where is the government for this? That's crazy. Like, I thought that's what they're for. What the fuck? It's technically scam. Yeah, it's intentionally trying to confuse you and make it harder for you to understand how much money you're spending. Because boomers to understand, we just need a few more boomers to have their kid rack up $900 in fucking microtransaction fees, and then we'll see those guys on the fucking Senate floor getting grilled. But until then, yeah, you're right. They don't even know what's happening. Yeah, I hate premium currencies. I think they have... there is no... Again, it's like removing battle pass things. But like this is different because like battle pass tiers and shit like that, that's like just video game shit. Like this is real money being spent. And I just think it's ridiculous that we have premium currencies. I don't know why they exist. They're manipulative. Yeah, they're just manipulative. There's nothing more to it than that.
Battle passes. So, let's take a look at our pricing then. The Battle Pass is free, the basic one. You then have the Premium Battle Pass, which is $9.99, giving you access to the 63 premium tiers of the pass, and then the Accelerated Battle Pass. Are you old? Are you old and crusty? Like, you know, I'm 28. I'm ancient, but do you want to be a Zoomer? Do you want to be a Zoomer and zoom through your Battle Pass?
Yes.
Well, you can do that for $25,
I want to spend
where
money.
you will get 20 tier skips and the Wings of the Creator.
Oh, wow.
Emote. Now, Blizzard also confirmed to Kotaku that the tier skips are otherwise $2 each. And
so you could complete all of the Battle Pass with, what would that be, $46 of the free Battle Pass? That's not too bad.
That the Accelerated Pass exclusive items will not be available separately. Aha, yes, so it's not just time equals money, it's also saying, hey, do you want to be that VIP? Well, you'll get a special little doodad.
I don't really care a lot about that. I mean, you have to spend money and you get a stupid emote, like, who cares? I mean, the problem that I have with, like, video game monetization is, like, things that are intentionally manipulative. Like, this isn't intentionally manipulative. You could say it's scummy, but, like, the person goes into it, they know what they're buying, and they're buying it. You know, it's not, this isn't like gambling. It's not like some fucking random chance. You spend money, you buy the stupid thing, and you get it, right? I mean, people sold pet rocks. I mean, this is just a pet rock in a fucking video game, as far as I'm concerned. Especially one argument, they need currency that's high tier and cannot be converted to dollars, but useful things should also cost dollars. Oh yeah, no, it's okay if there is a currency, but I think that next to it, there should be a dollar amount for every there should be a required dollar amount that is shown side by side with the premium currency cost. So it should say like 500 you know, platinum bars, or, you know, $9.73.
Right. So, the cosmetic shop then, let's talk about that. So, the very first thing the Blizzard said about this shop, and they wanted to be clear, because I think they know that if they cock this up, they'll be murdered. It is just that you do not need to engage with it. And, of course, this is a challenging thing for Blizzard, because they are going up against, you know, an industry where people are very used to things in some free-to-play games.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, fairly obviously, Path of Exile. But a lot of it comes down to a concept called price anchoring.
Well, PoE, yeah, pricing, yeah, I'm sure he'll explain it. I'll wait for him to do it. But in PoE is very different. PoE does sell some quality of life. And I would argue that if you don't have stash tabs, you are playing the game at a massive fucking disadvantage. Does that mean that you can't play the game without stash tabs? No. You can play the game without stash tabs. But I think that for paying $70, you should never have to pay for convenience. Like, I don't care about cosmetics, that's whatever. But pay for convenience, I think, is so much worse than cosmetics. Like, it's so fucking bad. Because as soon as you add pay for convenience into a game, you've just created a profit incentive for a game to be inconvenient.
I'm sure you'll be aware of, right? It's like you always you process new information in regards, or with a strong consideration of what you previously expected. So it's like if I go to you and I say, I'll do the thing, it'll cost $3,000, and you say, no, that's too much money, and I'll say, okay, I'll do it for $2.5, and then you'll be like, oh wow, that's a $500 discount, fantastic.
Yeah. 800% value. Price anchoring is extremely useful. It's a great negotiation technique, and everybody should know how to do it. And should be aware of that.
Well, it only looks like a deal because I anchored it at $3,000. And it's like that with video game business models. Again, I bring up Halo Infinite as a good example there because people...
Yeah, like they'll have things and they'll say it's 80% off. But like the 80%, the original price is just the anchor for you to feel like the 80% price is a great deal. But it's just a line of code that they can replicate infinitely with no problem. It has no actual value.
Anchored into the idea of an old Halo progression system.
It's actually illegal. It's actually illegal in some countries. It's not illegal in all countries, and it's not illegal in all circumstances. Even the countries that it is illegal in, at least I know I looked at this, like somebody linked me, like they said it was like in Brazil. Like it's only illegal in certain circumstances. Or no, maybe it was Australia. It was like it was either that or Australia. I don't remember which one.
You could just get all the armor stuff, yourself. And then the deal changed. So that's why Blizzard are going to be very, very careful with this. So they argue that there are, well, I don't know if they're arguing, they're claiming that there are hundreds of transmogs, weapons, pieces of armor, including dozens of armor sets, all available to players at launch.
I think that's true. I think that there are a lot of really cool sets of gear in the game. Yeah, that's fine.
And that everything in the cosmetic shop is to give additional options. More importantly, and this is bolded in Blizzard's original text, so they want you to know this is important.
Oh yeah.
None of the cosmetics sold in the shop provide you anything greater than aesthetic variety. And they also make a point of saying that the dark, gritty elements of Diablo will be reinforced via all cosmetics.
Thank God. So it's not like they're going to have a cosmetic like in Lost Ark where you're walking around fighting a fucking demon of pestilence and you're a goddamn hot dog with a Ronald McDonald hammer. It really kind of kills the immersion of fighting a con, huh? It's like, let's take down Volton, the Demon Lord Commander. Let's see, what do I have next to me? I've got Barney... we've got, let's see, this is an OnlyFans girl, and we've also got Ronald McDonald, and, okay, Jotaro. Great. Yeah, and a Mokoko. Perfect.
And this additionally means some shop cosmetics will be class-specific, but this mostly seems to be suggesting that they won't be doing wacky skins, such as, remember Battlefield Santa? That Battlefield players got a little bit confused over. Now, as for how the shop is going to work, explicitly something that you may never engage with, other than using it for, the platinum that you'll get via the Battle Pass. That it's for self-expression, not power, that they will be rotating cosmetics on a consistent basis, but that the shop will be intelligent. Yes, a smart shop that will recommend to you cosmetics that fit
How much you want to bet that the AI on the shop is going to be better than on Lilith whenever the boss fight comes out?
Style and aesthetic of your current character. And that's one of those funny things, right? It reminds me of advertisement personalization. Yeah. Because by default, whenever an app or a website says, would you like a personalized advertisement experience? What do you and me do? We think, hell no, get out of me. You hit the no button, and then all the adverts are random shite. Whereas, how many times do you have a situation where, obviously these sites, they all have telemetry on you, a brand that thinks that you are their customer, wants to reach out to you, they can do that via advertising, so they use a targeted ad in order to get in front of you, and that's how a lot of people maybe see some sort of brand on whatever algorithmically generated social media platform that they're using, and they think, oh, that advert actually looks interesting to me, I'll use that. So it's that interesting thing where even if you look at a Halo Infinite, and I
don't give a fuck if they have the store that gives you personalized ads. I don't care about this. It doesn't really matter. If the game is fine, I'll buy things on the store. Like it's not a big deal. Like, as long as there are cool cosmetics and there are cosmetics that you can unlock for beating capstone challenges in the game, and like accomplishments that have like visual appeal that you can see, oh shit, somebody achieved this, they got this is really cool, then I don't see the problem with them having cosmetics and shit like that in the store. However, I don't see a problem with it in the context of that's just the way it is. I'm sure a lot of you guys probably feel the same way that I do, that I wish that we could go back to the days where whenever you went to Stormwind and you saw somebody with a cool set of armor, the first place you checked was Atlas Loot and not the store.
Halo Infinite up a lot because it's a really good example of a failure that wasn't just like a failure of like turbo greed or anything. It was a failure of just being just a squib. It was just like Halo Infinite. Bleh, no one cares, right? Where one of the things people criticized it of was, your shop's boring. So it's interesting there. This is one of those things where you'll see this and you'll be like, this is blatant profiteering using an algorithm to make me spend more money. Whereas it's also just ensuring there'll be things that you actually might be interested in. So I think that's an interesting little brain teaser.
I don't think it's a big deal. Like, if you're playing a barbarian, they're going to show you a skin for barbarians. Oh, okay. I mean, this isn't exactly, fucking 1984 here. Like, I get it.
Now, class-specific items will be on the account level, not the character level.
That's great.
Diablo Immortal. And as a result, cross-purchases are available. So any platinum or cosmetics that are on PC will, of course, be available on console.
That's smart.
For me, this is a fairly... well, the idea of cross-progression is a fairly major thing. I think that, I know this game runs and feels fantastic on console because that's actually how I played it originally. But I would like the option on PC, so that is good. Now, they also stress that there's a preview function that is a key element of the store, and the reason why they've done that is to let somebody fully inspect the cosmetic. It's a little bit like what they did in FF14, where I think basically your character goes to sleep in a bed in an inn and then can dream of what the microtransactions look like on them, which is, again, that thing of like,
that's clever.
I actually see what it is. And then finally, they end by showing us some paired sets, which are framed in a way to suggest that the in-game look can be just as cool. So let's take a look at this then. We have our in-game look over here, which, alright, pretty sweet. We have our paid look, maybe a bit cooler, but...
Personally, I think this one looks way cooler. It reminds me of the, like those big guys in Elden Ring that have like those like chains. Reminds me a lot of them. So yeah, I like this one more, but I think the other one is really cool too. Yeah, Gladiator is another example with like the helmet, but that's the first one that I can think of.
I mean,
but both of these are cool.
This specific example doesn't feel egregious. Now, this is one example. Who knows, right? It obviously,
sure.
The proof of the pudding will be.
I think the funny thing is, like with New World, for example, the cosmetics in the game are way better than the ones in the store. Like, I can't wait for the transmog option in New World because there are so many really cool items in New World that you can't transmog.
You can very easily cherry pick things, because they could choose the things that they think are the best free cosmetics and then choose the paid cosmetics that they think are the most niche. To take a look at this, in-game versus shop.
Yeah, personally, I think the in-game one looks way cooler here, but this is like a very unique style too.
Honestly, I think these both look sick. So I really like them both. But again, these are cherry-picked examples that are there to prove their point. The example here is legendary armor through gameplay on the left, and then armor cosmetics over on the right. So look, really, so far...
I think that it's not even about whether there's cool armor sets in the game. I think that there needs to be cool armor sets and cool item skins that you get for completing challenges in the game. Because that's what really matters. It's not like how cool your character looks, it's what you have to differentiate yourself from other people. Like achievements and shit. Yeah,
so
like
live
challenge
service.
mode stuff.
It is what it is. And that's not the dirtiest thing.
Oh, we're getting dirty now.
Because
I like it.
From my perspective,
Let's go.
is what I've always said with mounts in World of Warcraft. People will accept more of that microtransaction stuff if they feel like their core desires in the game are being met.
Yeah.
And that's
that's why people were so mad about it in like WoD and BFA. But people don't give a fuck as much about with store stuff in WoW nowadays, is that WoW is bringing out a lot of content, and so people are like, oh, well, you know, they added this thing into the store, but they also added this thing into the game, so we don't really care as much. And also people gave up. Yeah, true.
Whenever people started to talk about, World of Warcraft, Boar Lords of Paymore, that was because in Warlords of Draenor, the in-game mounts were often just like reskinned boars that had this really bad animation where they shuffled along, but in order for the animation to actually look fast enough, they basically looked like they were a bunch of coked up boars.
Yeah, they're like super
While
fast.
At the same time,
they fixed them
we
at the
had
end
a
of the
bunch
expansion.
of really nice in-game store cosmetics. With the store
the
map.
WoD disparity was the worst that it's ever been.
And that's why you call it Boar Lords of Paymore, because it's like, well, the mounts in game are kind of naff. Look at those ones in the store, and then you could even look at situations in the game where you're like...
Yeah, like they even had mounts in the game. Like, for example, they had Fey Dragons, and they had Fey Dragons all over in Shadowmoon Valley, but you couldn't get a single Fey Dragon in game. But you could get 7 different boars. And the only way you could get a Fey Dragon that's like constantly being effectively advertised through just playing through the game, the only way you could get one is if you went to the store. It was so stupid.
That's the... What? Why is this base where a store mount is grown? Because that would be to people a little bit like, finding Netherwing in the Burning Crusade. But you can't get the Netherwing Drake in-game because instead it's on the store.
That's actually a really good comparison. Yeah, it's like, imagine if you got the reputation with the Netherwing Drakes, and then at the end you just got a trinket. And if you wanted to get them out, you had to buy it on the store. That's exactly how WoD felt.
That's the thing that feels terrible. Whereas right now, I will roll my eyes and groan at how they're doing some of the monetization in World of Warcraft. However, I will at least feel that the content deliverance end of that bargain is significantly more healthy. And I think that's one of the reasons why...
Yeah, you can have microtransactions and you can have a dog shit content release schedule. But you can't have both and not expect people to get mad.
The Final Fantasy XIV community was generally more okay. Now, they did have some dramas, of course, but they were generally more accepting of their in-game store because
people were mad whenever they added the, I think it's the, that Alexander, 8 mount into the game as a store mount. People are pretty pissed about that. But otherwise, yeah, people are okay with it.
Felt like they were being given a completely
Cruise
incredible
Chaser,
experience
yeah.
in game and a content cadence that was very reliable, that engendered good faith. So that's what's going on here. There is the other side here of D4's development certainly having some issues. I mean, we've got this, some of the worry from staff. Quote, "I think my future at Blizzard, my days are numbered," one current member of the D4 team said to Kotaku. They said some others in their team have already given notice. None of their managers agree with the return to office policy. And I know, with this return to office thing...
Yeah, that's something that's
I'm recording in an
company-wide.
office right now. I mean, I don't have a problem going into the office. And I know a lot of the comments down below will be people being like, fucking Californians, can't go into the office. And, there's a bit of me that can get that. My dad he did a construction company. He spent every day, and he's still at 68, works on site, installing windows and shit.
All right.
And I did all the hard labor when I was a kid. It was important. So, I do have that little bit of, just have it easy. I do have that ingrained in me. I will admit that. But there is another side to it. It's about competitiveness in the job market, because we're actually
in my opinion, I think that I think there's value for getting together in person and collaborating. I think it does have high value. I think making people come in 4 or 5 or maybe even 3 days a week is too much, though, especially in a job that you have to do everything electronically. There's zero value? No, I don't think there's zero value. I think that there is value. but I don't think that there is 100% value is what I'm trying to say. So I think also another factor is like just the logistics of having to go to work in Irvine whenever you live in California. You're talking like this is like a minus 2 or 3 hours to your day. Like that's what it really comes down to. And so do you want to delete 3 hours of your day for no reason? Probably not.
Pretty tight labor market from what I understand. And that means if Big Daddy Riot is or Bungie, right? If Bungie's going to say, we will give you slightly more money for the same job and you have more flexibility, then someone at Blizzard's going to say like, okay, I guess the return to office policy is a pretty damn excuse for me to take this deal at a competing company.
And also, like, another factor with this, too, was that people were hired at Blizzard during COVID and during the work-from-home era that didn't live in California, and they weren't really made aware that this would ever happen. So they lost their... Like, they basically were like, they were being told, like, hey, now you have to move to California to adhere to this new policy, even though they were hired remotely to begin with. Which is like, that sucks.
You know, we can take this away from this, I think where some of the discussion goes by default, of just being like, oh, go into the office, you know, man up. We could take it away from that and go into the other side of like, well, what would you do in that situation? The offer's better over there. Blizzard are making themselves less competitive as an employer. Therefore, that can hurt their content teams, right? So it's one of those things where I think it is a total red herring to just say, oh...
Yeah, why? It doesn't have anything to do with, like, what's right or what's fair. If one guy's going to give you an ice cream cone, but another guy is going to give you 5 ice cream cones, where you're going to go to the guy that gives you 5 ice cream cones. Or actually, probably not. Maybe you're on a diet. One guy's going to give you $1, or another guy's going to give you $10. Well, you're going to go to the guy that gives you $10, right? Do you deserve to have a random person just give you $1? No. Do you deserve to have a random person just give you $10? No. But if you've got to choose between one or the other, you're going to go with the 10. It's just how it is. People choose the best option.
Man up and go to the office. I think that's a complete red herring in this. If you want to, take that very free market approach to things, you would then say, well, okay, in the jobs market, who is willing to offer more salary, better benefits, and more working flexibility, right? So, you know, I can come at this from the, I can play the lefty angle, I can play the big free market angle, I can do whichever one you want. In any one of those dimensions, Blizzard loses here, right? And that's kind of my point, because sometimes a lot of these can feel very politicized and very, fiery whenever we talk about the return to work policies.
Well, I think a lot of people are negative about Blizzard employees being unhappy about return to work because they have to return to work. So they say, well, why did they get to stay home if I don't have to stay home? Or if I have to go back? It's like crabs in a bucket mentality. Oh, they can't have it good because I don't have it good. So boring.
But at the end of the day, no matter what way you look at it, other people are willing to give a better deal. And that means Blizzard will take the L. That's just how it is, right? Basically, development being a bit of a shit show. And this is not a Diablo 4 team thing, this is a World of Warcraft thing, but there was somebody who was a producer at Blizzard who was just tweeting like, yeah, we kind of have to make crisis maps of what content we can cut.
Yeah.
Because people keep on...
It's also like a big factor too, is like there's a lot of people probably don't want to work at Blizzard anymore because you announce you work at Riot and people are like, oh wow, that's super cool, like I like Valorant, or oh, I used to play League, but it made me hate my life, so I don't play it anymore. But you work at Blizzard and people see that, they're like, oh wow, so did you molest anybody? Did you drink any breast milk lately? Oh, let me guess, did you kill another game? Why is WoW bad nowadays? It used to be so good and it sucks now. It's just like the social cachet is a lot lower than it used to be in 2005. 2010.
leaving. We've got producers at Blizzard working in World of Warcraft who are just like, fantastic, there's our plan. Oh dear, a bunch of people have left. Now to change the plan.
Who was
and
right
if you look
in
at patch 10.1, I think 10.1 is actually, at its core, and especially if it had have all came out right, it's a fantastic patch. It is a patch that, in terms of what it does to the gearing system of the game, which if you don't play WoW, just look, TLDR, major. One of the biggest wins I think we've had to a foundational pillar of World of Warcraft in a long time. Yeah, it came out with a fuckload of bugs. Some content were like, I thought that was supposed to be there at launch. Where is it? Even Blizzard themselves were confused about what point the new dragon riding mount was supposed to come out. Was it week 1? Was it week 2? Conflicting sources from the company, or reports from the company. And I think, to me, that just speaks to an environment of chaos, of turnover, and that stuff is really not good. So
I think it's also probably just the fact that they're doing a lot. Like, they're releasing WoW content faster than they've ever released WoW content before, I would say. And there's just going to be more fuck-ups. Like, if you roll the dice 5 times, you're probably going to have less ones than if you roll them 50 times, even with the same mistake ratio.
The bit that I get worried about here, as a WoW player, Dragonflight has been built up with a very flexible work policy with no mandated return to the office. And all that I can say as somebody who covers that game, partially for a living and has played that game since I was a kid, I look at this and I think like, right, so Dragonflight's probably the best expansion they've done since Legion.
Yeah.
From a systems design perspective, it's a better expansion than Legion. And from a content cadence perspective, it's basically the most competitive this game has ever been. They managed to ship all of this while working from home.
Yeah, I think Legion for its time was way better than Dragonflight, but I think objectively Dragonflight has better systems than Legion. A lot of people remember Legion as 7.35, but the majority of Legion was trash.
And of course, with the way that production cycles and games work,
but for its time,
the
it was insane.
Came out now, people will have been working on that in 2022, right? So now I'm beginning to worry, well, if the team starts to have lots of attrition, what's that going to mean for the content that's being, greenlit now, that's in pre-production? Does that mean our patches...
I wonder, what their thinking was that, the fucking last boss of the raid is just a dragon. It's just this loser. Who cares about this guy? Why is he here? Get him out of here. Just shut up. It's like a fucking... gives a fuck. Who thought this was a good... Yeah, it's not even a normal... Yeah, it's just one of Skinny Boys. Yeah, it's not even a cool dragon.
That's in pre-production. Does that mean our patches will get smaller and more spaced apart? Does that mean the next expansion may not have as much stuff as we would like? And you are forced to think, yeah, probably. So if you're a Diablo 4 player, I really do think that this is a notable worry. I would also say, especially because of cultural issues, we look at 2 examples of... Well, one of them is, I suppose...
Well, I will say the Diablo 4 team, it's really great because, especially Rod and the other guy, Joe Piora, whatever his name is, these guys have the exact same energy as 2 of the older neckbeards at, a comic shop. They know more about every comic than you know, and they're not afraid to remind you about it. And they will. They have all the cards that you want in Magic the Gathering. They're smarter than you. And they're going to lord that over you. I remember, how many of you guys went to, a card shop back in the day and you were, you're doing, Magic the Gathering. That was for me. Maybe you did Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Pokemon. And there was, a few of the guys there that, they were older and they had this massive fucking ego about it. That's the exact same kind of vibes that they have on the Diablo 4 team, and I think it's great. Especially
organic
those
growth,
2 guys.
The other one is inorganic growth. So the organic growth to the Diablo team, I suppose, no, it would be kind of inorganic. Anyway, it's the relabeling of Vicarious Visions to be Blizzard Albany, which to Vicarious Visions is hey, your culture, your name, everything. Your old studio head, Jen O'Neill, instantly left as soon as she became co-leader of Blizzard because it was a shit show. So, turnover, bad vibes, bad morale. You look at Proletariat. the company they acquired to boost up the World of Warcraft development pipeline.
Cool.
Bad morale, bad shit going on. We have reports of game directors, which I'm going to assume means, like, Ian Hazzikostas. I mean, we can... as an example as a WoW player, you'll see Ian doing interviews. I forget the name of the game director of Diablo, but it'd be the same thing for you guys over Diablo land. You see Ian sitting there having to do those PR interviews while we have leaks saying that he is trying to complain up the chain that the remote office, the return to office thing is damaging his team and his ability to, and his production team's ability to actually ship the game. And it's like, cool. So there he is having to do all of these interviews about the new content in the game. Secretly, behind the scenes, what's he doing? What are the things that are stressing him about his job? Is it some sort of, oh my god, management is poisoning us? It's kind of what you're almost forced to assume. So that's the situation, everybody. Will this...
Yeah, I mean, obviously, that's the way a lot of companies are. It's just an unfortunate reality.
Impact the consumer-facing side of Diablo 4? Because, here's the thing. The store content won't go away. The thing that will contract is the content that you get to play for free in every season.
Yeah.
The more that this team gets damaged, the more that, the thing that Blizzard, I suppose, earns our goodwill with, so that we will allow the store, and so that we'll, it will feel like, okay, we're getting lots of free updates and support, therefore we accept your store. Well, their ability to actually deliver on that content may decrease. So we'll have to see how it goes. Overall, here's my perspective. Does it seem like there's pay to win? No. If they're running the game like this, is this a reasonable way to do it? I would say yes. In the action RPG genre, paid cosmetics is a thing, right? Look at Warframe, look at Path of Exile, all of that. If you end up getting an experience...
People will allow paid cosmetics in games now. Like, any game that's not selling paid cosmetics is leaving money on the table. I'm glad that there are still games that are willing to do that for the integrity of their game, but you should never expect that to happen. It sucks. It fucking sucks. But gaming is so big, and guys, that's just the way it is.
Feels comparatively premium from D4. Then, I mean, that would be pretty good. I can certainly say from my time playing the closed beta, it was 10 out of 10 banger for me. Now, for me, that was mostly because it was very cinematic. It was very, just very, very well put together and high quality. I know that may not be what the core ARPG audience cares about as much, as they're maybe more thinking about those like top-end loot systems and buildcraft and things like that. Anyway, that is the situation. A big thank you to you for watching this video. Let me know what you think about the prospects of this company. What do you think about, this idea of, of their turnover? It's like right as the times seem good, they also seem poised to shoot themselves in the foot, which is kind of depressing. Anyway, have a good one. Support the sponsor to support us, and we'll see you next time.
That was a good video. Too often, paid cosmetics are a gateway to pay to win. Well, we'll deal with that whenever we get to it. That's what I would say, but yeah, what's your solution to monetize a game and produce content then? Oh, I don't know. I mean, I think it depends on the type of content and the type of game. Like, for an MMO, I'd prefer a subscription model. Personally, I think subscription models are better, and I think that if you have a game that's enjoyable and fun to play, people will pay a sub for it. I like that. I mean, you're paying a sub, you're buying expansions, I think that's enough. If you can't make money that way, then maybe you should try a different business model. That's what I would fucking say. However, I know a lot of people can't afford a sub, so they want something free to play. If you have a free to play game, you have to have microtransactions. There's no other way around it. How else can you possibly make money unless you're making your players look at ads or something like that, right? So I totally understand that. In terms of like cosmetics, obviously I think paid cosmetics, like it's always disappointing to see that. But the real problem with paid cosmetics is whenever they're just better than all the in-game cosmetics. And there's no cosmetics that you can have in-game that differentiate you and you can kind of use to stand out with. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I'd like to play. I mean, would I make a game like that? It's kind of hard to say because, like, you're talking about, like, two different things. There's, like, what is my ideal version of a game and what do I think would be profitable? And the truth is, those things are two different things. Like, Honkai Star Rail is probably going to make way more money than Elden Ring, but I like Elden Ring more. But if I was gonna invest in a game, I'd want to invest in Honkai Star Rail. So it's like it's a weird, like, double speak conversation, you know? So that's what I'm trying to get at. Paying for a game isn't exactly free to play. Well, I'm talking about, like I was saying, for a separate example. Like I was like for different business models, right? You have buy to play games, pay to play games. Sub to play games. You have free to play games. Like that's basically the three options. So yeah, wouldn't subscription and Battle Pass essentially be the same thing, except Battle Pass gives you stuff? Yeah, it basically is the same thing. I think it's a decent video by Belly. I'm going to go ahead and give it a like and share it with you guys. Make sure to give it a like too. Invest in both. Yeah, there you go. PoE does it best. Yeah, PoE has loot boxes, and they also have pay for convenience, and nobody gives a shit because they like the game. I think ultimately, if you have a good value proposition, people will see value in the game.